I'd like to call this Monday, August 28, 2017 Board of Education regular meeting to order. Roll call.
Mrs. Bissinger.
Here.
Mr. Spruman. Mrs. Huebner.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Dr. Heiss.
Here. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The flag. Remove the flag. So it's not your face.
So our safety briefing, we do have doors to your right and maybe the ones behind you, but probably go to your right if there are any emergencies. I get a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Tepfer?
Mrs. Bissinger.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Huebner. Yes. Dr. Heiss.
Yes. Can I get approval for the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes of the Finance Committee meeting of August 3rd, the minutes of the regular meeting of August 7th, and the minutes of the Human Resources Committee meeting August 16th.
Second.
Mr. Tepfer?
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Bissinger.
Yes.
Mrs. Huebner.
Yes.
Dr. Heiss.
Yes. I do want to bring up one thing here, too. I'm at least occasionally in social media. There was some questions about when the minutes are posted. All of our minutes, and this is very common in all boards, is that you do the minutes, or once the minutes are approved, then they're put on almost immediately on our website. But we don't put the minutes on from the last meeting until we have a chance to read them and approve them. So there's always about a month delay in there. Correspondence and procedure for public commentary. This is not a public meeting, but a meeting held in public. We do welcome comments from the community. You'll have 5 minutes to address the board. We do not bring up specific students by name or teachers by name. Any of those need to be addressed in other measures, but we are happy to listen to residents' concerns. In fact, and now we are going to go through, you fill out one of these sheets. They used to be called them green cards. We have 2 today. First is Wendy Durso. Do we have correspondence? Yeah, we'll go. I jumped past that. All right. Thanks.
You can go to the podium.
Come to the.
Mrs. Durso, is there enough space? Do you want that podium up?
It's perfect. I think that you could probably hear me. Is it on? Hello? You can hear me? You can probably hear me without it. I won't take much of your time. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. In short, I myself I'm here for my son Spencer. Had a really tough year this year, and thanks to several people I spoke with here, including our superintendent, Scott Prebbles, Eric Fry, and our great principal at Turpin, Mr. Spencer. Spencer has never been ineligible or any kind of grade problem at school. Just been through kind of a lot of different things going on. Fourth quarter, with his exams, he passed all his classes. When we looked at it, I have 4 sons, Nicholas that graduated in 7, Alex in 11, and my twins. I've read the manual many times, and I've been from 03 to now through a lot of different parent meetings and things like that. So I guess I really didn't look at it too closely to see different things. I kind of blame this on myself. I guess it's kind of everybody here has had good intentions, and I know rules are rules. But to me, I believe he's so close, and I just heard something on NPR that we have to make sure what we're doing, and I've learned it from peers. Mr. Prebbles has taught me things that I've just met him over the phone. Mr. Spencer, Mr. Fry, my parents, we were giving them their wings to go on. A C to a C plus, my son's on that field. And he will tell you when he speaks, it's his own fault, and he's sorry to most of his team lots of his friends that are sitting there. I guess I'm just here I know when it was a 2.0, we had a probationary period. I know circumstances. I know Mr. Prebbles has our things. And as Spencer will address, as of final forms, he's ineligible. For boys, I like to look at second chances, and I know if we do for one, we have to do for everyone, but I know that we get second chances. And for me to be standing here knowing that he's going to get up here and talk to you, and what I read, he read, he's not asking for any favors. He just really wants to say sorry because he feels bad that he has really messed up. So I have all these different things I wanted to say, and it wasn't he said, she said. He just, he's a great kid. He's an example of strength and courage. And I just really would hope that maybe in future we could look at it as maybe a second chance or a probationary period. His thing to Mr. Fry, who's not here tonight, wasn't able to make it, I suppose, was it's not about playing football, it's what his lessons that he learns with his coaches. My son, Nick, who's in the audience, I believe, he's good friends with his history teachers and all of his coaches that were his mentors. It's not about that. Though I wrote letters to those coaches and said, and I think I'm almost up, that you teach our children every single day. You teachers and faculty and you guys put so much time into it. You have our children more than we do pretty much. And they learn from them so much more than bowling or football. They learn their character, brotherhood, unity. And I guess I'm just here to say that thanks for listening, Mr. Prebbles. Randy. I just would hope for a second chance.
Thank you. Spencer?
Hello everyone, I'm Spencer Durso. I'm a senior at Turpin High School. I know that it's already been determined that I'm not able to play most of my games this year until after November 2nd, which is the playoffs. And I just believe I should be given a second chance. I'm not asking for anything to be changed or anything, but I learned my lessons, but taking football away from me is just taking away lessons I've learned from it. Like, I'm using lessons I've learned from it right now. Is like when I get knocked down to just get back up, which I'm doing right now, and to never give up. And that's what I'm also doing. And also, I've gotten a lot of friends from football, and they're all sitting right there. And I just want to say I'm sorry to all you guys that I couldn't keep my grades up and support you guys. I've been playing football since kindergarten, and it's been a ride of my life. It's one of my favorite sports I've ever played, and all my brothers have played it. My brother Nick, he's in the audience, same with Griffin. I just believe I should have a second chance. I don't know, that's just something I believe in. And one of my dreams is to play football in college, but I've almost completely shattered that dream myself, and I'm sorry. That's all.
All right, thank you. I skipped over correspondence from the Board of Education, the Treasurer and Superintendent. Do we have correspondence? One thing I would like to do today is to introduce two of our soon-to-be newest board members. a little-known fact, at least again, in the social media world, I don't know why I keep looking at you, but is that the candidates for election is you file petitions, we're due on August 9th. And on August 9th, for the first time in over 40 years for the three-person election, there were only 3 people who filed petitions. Myself being one, and then we have a former educator, although I don't know if you're ever a former educator, a lifelong educator, former high school principal, a mother of a Turpin graduate, who is going to be joining us tonight, and will be joining us starting in January. Dee Dee Choice, you stand up. Right. And and our other, I think she's here. Oh, she's right next to me. There she is. Is a businesswoman, a mother of some small children who are in Forest Hills, and I think soon to be in Forest Hills, who has been very active in the community for the recent past and for quite some time, is Elizabeth Barber. We have a unique opportunity to get into the role here and to kind of get an idea. When you start, it's always very difficult for those first couple months, and so we expect great things starting in January from those two. Now, what was not brought up this morning at our meeting was Mrs. Bissinger gave a very moving, welcoming speech, as that Julie is decided not to run after 13 years and innumerable hours of service. So there will be, I'm sure, many more thank yous coming up later on in the year, but she's fine. But yes, so she is going on to other challenges, and I'm sure will be a very important part of this district. So. District updates from the superintendent.
Thank you.
Do we have this? Randy has it.
Yeah, I can't hook it up.
Do we have that?
I think she has it. It'll be up there.
Thank you, Dr. Heiss. What I wanted to talk this evening about is the 2017-2018 continuous improvement work plans of the Board of Education, and these are proposals that I'm bringing to the board, proposals that prior to tonight I have provided some information to each of you in other correspondence. I'd like for you, please, Susan, to go to the next slide. And the last time we were together, we talked about the process for developing continuous improvement work plans for the school district. And basically, I know this is the same thing we talked about the last time we were together, but we meet in a June retreat with our administrative staff, and we take a look at the previous year, and from the information that we've learned about the plans that we had in that year and those prior to that, we make some decisions about things we'd like to move forward. Much of this is based on the district's strategic vision, and so absent of a few things that come as anomalies or a few things that come based on what's happening economically in the state of Ohio or educationally in the state of Ohio, or even with some of the things we're learning about the performance of our own students, they pretty much stay pretty close to what we have in our strategic vision. So we have that, and then in July and August, we come up with some recommendations, and that's pretty much where we are tonight. August and September, which would be over the next couple of weeks, we would ask that the board look into these a little bit further and give us some affirmation that yes, in fact, these are the things we would like to do for the upcoming school year in regard to strategic vision and in regard to continuous improvement in our school district. And then we would work those plans, so to speak, all the way through the middle of the year. We come together, and even before the middle of the year, we will have updates for you as board members at meetings like tonight, so that you can track the performance and how well we're moving on the benchmarks that we have within the plans. And then we would have a sort of a mid-year, as I just talked about, and we would make adjustments, changes if necessary. Sometimes are moving faster than we thought. Some are not moving as fast as we thought. We'll talk about those things at that time, make some adjustments, and then again, work those plans through the remainder of the year, making sure that we are updating members of the board and fulfilling our obligation to do the board's work across the full school year. And so we have 4 of them for you to consider this evening and over the next couple of weeks. And so the first one is about technology, and I'm glad Mr. Meese is with us because he's our new Director of Technology, and we'll be working together with Mr. Meese, Mr. Broadwater, a lot of administrators and teachers throughout the school district. But this study that we would like to do on behalf of the board is intended to critically analyze the hardware and software effectiveness, proposed future needs, and plan purchases in the school district regarding technology. Additionally, this plan will talk about staffing needs as well as service contract efficiencies, the infrastructure, and the instructional infrastructure that we're working with our students and staff for professional development. That will be a part of this review. We will also analyze our staff professional development and our staffing sizes and types of staff that we have dedicated for particular portions of the technology plan in the school district. So what we're proposing, now that we're moving into the last leg of technology purchases, and I say the last leg meaning our 2 big ships, so to speak, which are the high schools, making sure that the purchases that we have, that the infrastructure that we have in place, that the things we're learning about technology and the integration of technology and the way that our facilities are changing as they are being improved, are all of those things working together. Taking a close look at the staffing that we have wrapped around technology to ensure that we have the right people in the right places and that we have the amount of people capable of doing the work that's necessary to bring 21st century technology instruction into our classrooms and into the school district. So this is the first proposal for a comprehensive work plan to think about technology and how it's impacting the school district. The second one that I'd like to propose to you is about our future ready scheduling. And we want to develop new 9 through 12 schedules to promote collaboration, personalized learning, flexibility for students and teachers with an emphasis on the senior year. And we've talked about this for a couple of years now, really taking a close look at our high school schedule and how all other courses that we have, or curriculum that we have in place, even all the way to kindergarten, how a student matriculates through the system and then has choices and pathways as they move into their adult, well, not their adult, but their teenage years and into their high school years, 9 through 12. So we want to make sure that we have a schedule that's in place that meets the expectations that we have for college and career readiness in our school district, and so that our students are competitive when they go into the world of work, should they choose to take that path, and also very competitive across the country when they're in application processes for colleges that they are choosing to attend. The master schedule is something that we believe is a key to success. So what we want to try to do this year with the master schedules, we want to do some research on that. We want to research the curriculum that we have, the programming that we have. We want to take a look at best practices in the field, not only in the state of Ohio, but across the nation. We want to attend some other places and see some other things, not only high schools, but college campuses and some businesses across not only Ohio, but maybe even across the country. Not too far, but what we don't want to do is limit ourselves, and we want to take a look at what is out there and how we can promote 9 through 12 master schedules and curriculum to be able to, again, make our students competitive. We do participate in Anderson Township Workforce Development. Natasha Adams and I, the Director of Curriculum Instruction, and I work together with that committee, and right now, as part of this study, we are collecting all of the information from across Anderson Township and Southwest Ohio to determine what are the best jobs available for students, what are the needs in our local community. And what we're learning is that administrative professions, advanced manufacturing, construction, healthcare, information technology, transportation, distribution, and logistics appear to be those things in our particular area in need of employment. And so we want to think about pathways within our system to encourage kids to be able to move in those directions where we know that jobs are going to be. We also, in these areas, don't want it to just be, or just is a bad word here, we don't want a career readiness to overshadow our long tradition of preparing students for post-secondary colleges across the state and across the nation. And so that's a big part to ensure that we have a comprehensive program, one that affords opportunities for all students based on their personal needs and aspirations. And so that's what the master schedule, Future Ready Scheduling, is about. And we've begun to see some of that, and we'll unveil and move in that direction a little bit more this year with the middle school changes that we've made in the schedule, including the fusion schedules that we have and the programming that we have there. STEM and Project Lead the Way are all parts of this Future Ready Scheduling. The third one I'd like for you to consider is the value-added proposition planning. And this is all about us working together to develop a series of informational guides of communication for people who are in our school district to better understand the need for resources within our school system. We want to have a communication plan. We want to educate our community. We want to have comparative data with other school districts and other cities and villages and townships that are comparable to ours to see about taxes and infrastructure that they have for their schools. We want to try to put together plans for levy preparation, if you will. And when I say levy preparation, I mean educating people, pulling teams of people together, having them have a voice in the direction of the school district and in the finance of the school district, and working with Mr. Tepfer and myself to ensure that we are building a base of people who are knowledgeable about our school district, who are able to communicate the good things about our school district, who understand the value of what's happening within our school district, and not waiting until we need additional resources to go knocking on people's door or to communicate these good things about our school district. And so what we would like to do is allow the board to let us put, again, another comprehensive plan together that not only talks about resource acquisition, but talks about how to communicate, how to brand, how to ensure that people are aware of the value, how we have one clear message, one clear brand about our school district, and make sure that we are in a place that people are aware of who we are and aware of our value before we ask them for additional resources. And so that's what we'd like to do for the value proposition planning. The last one that I'd like to talk about, you know, you would say, well, there's only 4 of them, Mr. Prebbles. And I would agree, there are only 4 of them. But the fourth one is extremely important because the fourth one is the compilation of all of the things that we have put together for this 17-18 school year within our strategic vision plan. So the board is very well aware of these things that are happening, but I would like to remind everyone in the audience of the things that we're going to be doing this year and propose that we continue moving in this direction. I'll read a few of them for you. One would be all-day kindergarten, the whole planning for that, and making sure that we are reporting to the Board of Education on how well that plan is coming together, how well the students are the students experiencing a good, healthy, happy environment in their school? Are their parents happy with the way things are going? How are they doing with all of the things that we're asking them to do, the stamina of a full day versus a half day? So giving everybody a sense of how that program is coming together and how it is working for students. We're going to be putting the career cruising into the system this year, and that goes back. We talked about that this morning with the foundation, spearheading that project, allowing us to better understand how students are learning, their aptitudes, their interests, those things that motivate them all the way from kindergarten to the 12th grade, and putting that in with digital, electronic opportunities for students to be able to record that and keep that information about themselves over time so that they can make decisions about pathways, about colleges, about courses, and things that they're involved in. We do want to provide for the Board of Education with the new construction that's coming up, a custodial analysis. So because of the new square footage in the school district, Ray and Mike will be working together with our custodial staff to take a look at what is the industry standard, what does that look like in a school system, how much square footage have we added, and how can we adequately clean that so that we have the culture and environment for our students and staff that we would like to have, and that meets the expectation, more importantly, of our community who has so generously provided us with these fantastic facilities. We'll be putting into place this year our Experience program, and that's a program where students are going to be in high school that are taking a non-traditional path to graduation, having opportunities to have a more personalized half-a-day program for themselves, as well as a work opportunity, as well as having potentially some internships, experience-ships, where they are motivated by those things that interest them, and in a non-traditional setting. But it will be housed in the former central office, and if you haven't been over there or you haven't seen the pictures, the room has been updated. The restroom facilities are great for the kids. There's a couple of rooms over there. There's new furniture in there, just like in all other places in our school system. The air conditioning is working well, and we're looking forward to having those students enjoy that program, and we're looking forward to congratulating each of them next year as they graduate and go on to bigger and better things. We will be implementing the 7th and 8th grade master schedule that we worked on so hard last year that the board asked for us to take a closer look at, and that does include the reduction of class sizes and more balanced class sizes within the school within the Nagel School, which is important for us because what we have learned from Mr. Vandermeer is that this year it seems as though we have class sizes that are lower, averaging, than they have in many years, and the balancing of those classes is in better shape for us. And that's just two little byproducts of all of the things that took place to create a schedule that is more core-oriented, where we have teachers teaching in 5 core areas, instructional specialists with the kids for a longer period of time, and offering the Fusion program that we talked about that is intertwined within the Project Lead the Way and all of our STEM programming and curriculum. So we're feeling very good about the middle school schedule, and we'll be giving you reports about how well that is moving along. We're going to provide internet access for all students in the school district. For those children who do not have access to internet at home or whose families are in need of technology in the home, we want to try to provide that for them, and so we'll be putting that program together. And last year when we were talking about this, I think we identified 70 children, 35 to 37 families. I think the numbers are close. They may be a little off, but that's what we're talking about, ensuring that those children have access to internet so that they can have the resources at home like all other students within our school to be able to do the things from the blended classrooms that we're asking, and to be able to stay in touch with their teachers and their parents having access to teachers in the evening time, which we believe is an important part of that program. The Learning Design Specialist model, we'll be putting that into our schools this year, and that's where we will have learning design specialists in the buildings working with building leadership teams to develop curriculum, to develop integration of technology into the classroom, to ensure that there's robust assistance and opportunity for professional development within the school day on a daily basis for our teachers as they need it and as they desire it. And I know that that will be linked to the continuous improvement plans in the building. So the goal is for those individuals to be in buildings helping teachers meet the goals that they have in their continuous improvement plan, and not coming central office down, but literally coming from the building up, which then motivates central office to ensure that we have the things in place that do not distract our teachers in our classroom, and that fulfill the obligation that we have to our students to provide the best environments that we possibly can within the schools. So we're feeling good about that program and what may come of that. MTSS consistency in our district. We talked about that a little bit today at Convocation, and if you look at the report card of the school district or you look at the comparisons in our school district, I think that there's evidence that work and professional development in this area, which is multi-tiered systems of support for our students. You remember it is RTI and PBIS. The MTSS is the new terminology for that. In our school district, we need to have a focus, a real focus on that area to ensure that all of our students are accessing the curriculum and all of our students are performing at a high level. And so we're going to be doing that this year. And the last one to mention with the strategic vision implementation would be STEM and Project Lead the Way. And so where we will see that, we will be implementing in K through 8 the Amplify curriculum, which is STEM related. In K through 12, Project Lead the Way, which includes the launch program in K8. That'll happen during specials. The Gateway program in grades 7 and 8 during the encore time. We have the biomedical and engineering courses that we've added at the high school in grades 9 through 12, and the forensic science and astronomy courses that we have in the high school. And so those are related to the curriculum, or to the science curriculum, the new science curriculum, as well as STEM programming throughout the school district. So those are the 4 work plans that I would like for the Board of Education to consider as we think about the upcoming year. And again, we're talking about technology, future-ready scheduling, promoting our school district with some value proposition planning, and the strategic vision that we've put together on behalf of the board and our community to have a 17-18 that is very focused and aligned with larger goals of the strategic vision. And if you have any questions, this is when it's board member comment time. Thank you very much.
Are we going to get this in writing at some point? Is that?
Get this in writing?
Yeah, we've got the slides that you used here, but was there anything beyond that?
What I just said to you now?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, on the last ones that I read regarding the strategic vision, I read about 10 of the curricular ones. There are 20 on this document that are part of the strategic vision that we have for this coming school year.
Okay.
And they're on the back of that document that you have right there, sir. So not only do we have the new document that we passed out, but we have the definitions of each for all of our staff members and community members who would like to have them. So absolutely, I can provide that for you.
Thank you. Next up, board discussion. Do we have any topics of discussion? Business operations, always a high point of the meeting. Johnson?
I thought what I'd do is I'm going to have Dave come on up, because I'm going to have him kind of go through where we're at in each of the buildings from the standpoint of inspections and occupancy and so forth. But I thought what I wanted to do is to kind of get back and maybe do a little bit of a refresher on the whole change order process. I don't like coming up here anymore reading these off than you all like hearing them. But hopefully what I want to try and do is kind of go through the process a little bit. As you've seen over the course of the years, a change order can either be owner request. We've decided to make a change in scope as the owner. We've changed our mind on the way things look. It could be any number of things. It's an owner request. Building code. Building code isn't necessarily, as much as you might think, black and white. The building inspector, the fire inspector, any of those governmental agencies have the right, once they come on site, to change their mind. They, like anybody else, can review plans and approve something and say, well, we missed this. So we've had, various times they've come out and said, we want to have a greater level of security, so we want you to add various horn strobes. They want us to do something different along those lines. They want us to change the way a door opens. Well, when you order a door with 16 weeks lead time, it's very costly to replace it. So we have those two. We have unforeseen conditions. Unforeseen conditions is what I've quickly learned, and I've joked about it, is I don't think there's any place in the Forest Hills School District you can put a shovel into the ground and put it into full depth without hitting something you're not supposed to hit. That's an unforeseen condition. But also what we have is we do not have, in some cases, great existing documents. And it may be that the documents are accurate, but we don't have a complete set of documents. We have found at several buildings where we've expected walls to go all the way down to the foundation, and there's a gap between the wall and the foundation of this amount. You've got two buildings, Air and Sherwood, exactly alike. One had that gap, the other one didn't. We've opened up walls, thinking that we had structural beams sitting on, a solid wall when they're sitting on 4 inches of brick. So that causes a lot of heartburn. Another thing we get into, though, is where we have the A&E, the architect engineering, or as a result of the design team. If you think about the construction documents, if you think the fact that at Anderson or Turpin High School, we've got 300 pages of construction documents, we have hundreds of thousands of minute details, we're not going to get perfection. So that's why when you're talking about contingencies, you're talking about generally in the area of renovation, contingencies of maybe 6%. Well, we went into this very light at that point. I think we've talked about that in the past as far as what our construction contingencies were. So as we got into some of the later projects, particularly at the high schools, we got into an area called value engineering. When we started taking a look at some things and saying, okay, before we award the contractor, there's some changes. Might we sit down and meet with the construction firm on looking at their suggestions, how we might go about doing some things differently to save some money. So, and also in both Anderson and Turpin, we intentionally increased the size of contingency going into the project. So where that leaves us is that, for example, after what I'm bringing this evening, our change order percentage at Anderson High School is still a negative 0.34% because of the value engineering. So while there may be some sizable, it appears to be sizable change orders, I have one for $55,000 this evening. If you take 6% of just a $20 million project, that's $1.2 million. Okay, well, right now we're still in the hole as far as the change orders go. At Turpin, we're still in the hole. At Maddox, we're at 1.26%. Yes, we've had some of the buildings. We've had Air at 6%. We've had Mercer at 7%, Sherwood at almost 7%, Summit at 8%. Wilson's about 4.5%, kind of where you would think you would be on new construction. So yes, there's a lot, I'm coming up here with a lot of these, but I think if you go back to when Nagel was built, proportionally there's probably a lot the same. Also want you to understand, I think some of the building principals who have been to the meetings see some of the process, but the vetting process, I don't come up here okaying, or our team doesn't okay everything that's brought to us. There's an entire vetting process. We will have proposals submitted in writing to us, which the design team reviews. We review, I review, Bob reviews. We go out and set our eyes on things. So we're looking at things to have a better understanding. What you don't have the opportunity to see is where some of these things start at and where they end up at. We go through a many week process, so something may come up, and unless it's something that's critical to, right now, critical to getting into the building to start a school, it takes us several weeks, if not a couple of months, to kind of go through some of that based upon some of the detail. And during the process, we're also trying to determine why we're even discussing this. What's at the root cause of this? So I think that's important to understand. And the last thing I would say on this is that I will use Wilson for an example. We incentivized the contractor there to hit a deadline. Well, the contractor didn't hit that deadline. That deadline was August 15th. So I met with the owner last week, reminded Mr. Hodge that we'd had this agreement. So my expectation is we will have some credits coming back with regards to some of the change orders I brought in the past. We've also had some contingencies that were built, or allowances that were built into that contract that weren't fully used. So we're going to expect some of that coming back. So there'll be, in that case, some of that coming back. But I just thought it was important as I'm going through this stack this evening and all that I have on there, just to kind of update you on to kind of what that process is. So having said that, unless you have any questions on that, I'll turn this part of it over to Dave.
Good evening. I'll give you an update of where we're at. But before I start, just kind of some background, because I think I as well tend to forget about construction. Construction is a messy, complicated process. If you don't think it's messy, drive by Anderson. You'll see how messy it is. Or have somebody come remodel your kitchen, and you'll see how messy it is. And it also requires a intricate and complex relationship between lots of moving parts, from the beginning of the design through material acquisition, through the installation of that material, on to the inspections. And inspections, although you think they're simple, I was all day today with building inspectors in 5 different buildings. And we go from one to another, and then we wait for another inspector. And so it is a complicated process with lots of moving parts. And lots of planning went into our summer phase. Just to give you an idea, at Maddox, it's not arbitrary where we decide to have a phase. The center core of the building was renovated this summer because if there's no place for kids to be when we would be renovating the center portion, so it has to be a summer project. Summit has a new elevator in the center of the building. It's pretty difficult to put a new elevator in the center of a building when it's full of kids. Mercer, where the office and the entry are, had to be done during the summer. There was no way to create a different office and entry space. Turpin and Anderson offered unique opportunities for phasing because you can't find a home temporarily for science. It's a very complicated teaching environment, nor art. So those phases had to be summer phases. All of these phases, so to say in the least, the summer of 2017 was always going to be busy. All these phases were deemed accomplishable by our whole team, the contractors, the architects, myself, Ray, Bob. The whole team sat down and went through, okay, can we do this? And some of the projects suffered unexpected delays that we were able to overcome and start school on time. Maddox had a long permitting process, about 3 months. Our contractor was able to overcome that. We had at Turpin, we had cut off the cooling early in that building, and we were able to live through an uncooled latter part of the year so that we'd get a jump on the installation of new cooling. The Mercer folks, we had, as Ray had said, every time we cut in the ground, it seems like we find something we didn't expect, and Mercer had an unexpected more than most. And to the point that we had to even at the very end, kind of abandon the direction we were going with chairlift and provide a new chairlift. All of this, along with the fact that our area is slammed with work, which is great for our area's economy, but it means there's no tradesmen. There are literally no tradesmen. There's 17 electricians at Anderson from Mississippi. They don't bring any food for us either, which I'm a little disappointed for. At our peak this summer, we had 500 people in our district working on all our buildings. Anderson, however, suffered too many unexpected delays that only time could overcome. At the other buildings, we were able to overcome that without time. We had bad soils, talk about unexpected or unforeseen conditions. We excavated down the center of the hallway 3 feet deep and discovered that the kitchen plumbing was a foot lower than the plumbing that it was hitting, and so we had to change all that, because one thing is true: S goes down and smell goes up. Okay, so you can't, so we had to fix that if we had been foolish not to fix that. Plus, we had a huge amount of, we had weather patterns that were screwy that aren't good for site work. You can't have 3 days of rain and 1 day of dry and then 3 days of rain. The other way around is much better. You can overcome those. And we had a tremendous amount of work. If you've gone by Anderson, you can see the amount of site work. We've probably touched every piece of asphalt on the site. We have a brand new electric service that's been brought into the building that went on today. That's a pretty complicated process to turn the electric on and immediately start to bring services online. So we were renovating an existing building and unforeseen conditions. Existing buildings, when you start to renovate existing buildings, they are never the way you expect them to be, even if you have good drawings, which we suffered in some points. In the end, however, everybody has worked to provide a safe and new beautiful environments for the students, although be it a week late at Anderson. So we thank you and apologize at the same time. Little update, and then I'll do this. Just kind of tell you where we're at. Go ahead.
When you've concluded this portion, can you kind of give us an update where we are with permitting at this point in time?
We'll do that right now.
Great, thank you.
County inspections, start with Anderson, so I'll do this one building at a time, alphabetically, so there's no order for anybody. Anderson, the county inspectors came today and did above ceiling. So before you can put these ceiling pads in, the county has to come in, both the electrical inspector and the county, they need to look above the ceiling. It's called above ceiling inspection. Those occurred at every area in Anderson except for science today. So the bulk of the ceiling pads can now start to go in. The electric is on, so automatically the rooms and the spaces are going to start to look and feel completely different. Final grading has started around the building, and the contractor on his dime, so no charge to us, is sodding a substantial portion, so it'll look great for us. And what he's not sodding, he is not seeding and strawing. He's doing what's called hydroseed, which is they spray it out of a hose, automatically has some mulch to it, so it sits down and looks green and doesn't have the straw blowing everywhere. Fire alarm testing is going to start this Thursday now that we have power. Can't do fire alarm testing without power. The teachers should be allowed in the building in the art and office area September 5th, so we're still on schedule for that, and teachers in the science area September 7th. Hope I've answered everything on Anderson's permitting. I'll go to Maddox. Maddox final fire alarm was today, was approved. The renovated spaces in the building will be cooled by the start of school, which is no small undertaking. Starting almost 3 months late, the contractor said, no way. And we renovated the piping layout extensively, and they were able to overcome that. So we've got a great group of fees over there. We have partial occupancy of the building was issued today. The occupancies are all contingent on fire alarm systems. Once fire alarm system is in place, life safety is in place, and then the county can go then and issue occupancy of that space. Teachers at Maddox have been in the building as of Monday this week. So setup has begun and is earned. Some spaces are better than others. And if all goes well, we should have that site hydroseeded by the end of this week as well. Mercer's fire alarm test passed today. Elevator inspection passed today. Above ceiling in the kitchen and the art are done, so they will pad those out first thing in the morning. Temporary occupancy has been in place for the teachers in the building, and everything except for the kitchen, the cafeteria, the auditorium, and the office, and we will have those later this week. Summit, the temporary occupancy has been in place for the teachers since Monday. The elevator is in operation, and the chairlift is waiting for a battery. Hopefully will be in place before the start of school. The battery is supposed to be here this week. Turpin, this morning we got a temporary occupancy for the science area. That was done today. The rest of the building has had temporary occupancy since Monday, and the final fire alarm for that building is scheduled for Wednesday this week. And when I say scheduled for Wednesday, even though we have teachers in the building, we will either schedule those after school hours or through the PA system alert to teachers, hey, this thing is going to go off and it's going to be an annoyance, and we'll get through that.
Dave, depending on the size of the building, could you explain to the board the length of time once the fire alarm inspection takes place? What's the typical process when you have a fire inspection come through?
So there's been somewhat of a disconnect between the IBI, which does our electric inspections. That's not a county, that's not under Hamilton County. It's a separate agency, kind of like the plumbing department's a separate agency. And the county has come in, done the fire alarm inspection, but we still need a IBI inspection. Now, if the IBI inspection is in place, as in the case of Maddox, and they come in and do the fire alarm inspection, you can occupy as soon as they leave the building. We, in some instances, have to wait for that IBI follow-through. At Summit, we have a plumbing follow-through, which prevents us from getting a final permanent occupancy. But all of them, with the exception of Anderson, all of them will have that before the end of this week. Did that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Wilson had its final fire alarm today, and it passed. And the temporary occupancy for the teachers has been in place since Monday there. This is one of those buildings where we have the electrical inspection, the IBI, has to come back, and they're coming back tomorrow. And once they come back tomorrow, then we will have I'm not going to call it a final, there's another step before final, which is partial, and you can go partial occupancy for 6 months. without any issues. But there's other, like zoning has to come in and say, okay, everything's fine and finished in your building, but that doesn't mean you can't occupy your building. So you would have a partial. Eventually, when you got everybody sign their documents, then you get a final, and then we're finished. That kind of takes us through this. Again, these pictures are not yesterday. So, for instance, this area over in front of Anderson, this is all paved, and this has got all curbs in it now, and this is all rock, and they'll start paving this area tomorrow. All the scaffolding is gone from the front of this building. I think you go ahead. You've seen in my report, this is kind of, they've concentrated on another area. So this will follow. We'll have additional discussions about scheduling with this contractor. You've seen in my report the mountain of dirt. This is the mountain of dirt, and it is going down this road right now and to the other side of the football field. There's an area that you wouldn't know is there if you didn't walk out there. Like I said, this scaffolding is all gone. The doors are starting to go in here. This is the art wing. It's got 2 windows it didn't have before, which I think there's an inside picture, which is really great space now. This area behind the cafeteria, so the gym is over here. This is the cafeteria. This is the new location for the generator, the transformer, cooling tower, kind of a utility yard. That'll all have a fence around it. Hard time seeing this. This is that art area with those 2 windows. And right now, the ceiling pads will start going in there tomorrow. Part of the big piece of work is to cool and heat this building, and to do that, what we didn't have before was a water. We had a system that was just along the wall and it was all electric. These pipes now will run through the whole building, and they are huge. They're this size, and it's not, everything has to be lifted. There's nothing that can be done by hand. So that is a big piece of work that has occurred. This is the 3-foot trench, by the way, that went through that floor. Then you go on. This is the cafeteria, and in July there was no pipes up here, and in August the pipes are not only there, but they're insulated, and that ceiling will start to go back in tomorrow. This is the office area. The office area ceiling is partially padded right now. The flooring will start this week and be finished this week. This area is virtually finished. It's like a tenant finished space at this point. Casework is in place. As you can see here, this is part of the casework is starting to come in. Somatics, really kind of cool looking building, I think, with the curved panel roof. Just a kind of indication that things are buttoned up and coming along. This is the media center. This is all cleaned up now, and casework is starting to go in there. Ceiling pads are going in. Just a typical classroom that in July looked like this, and now is the teacher's material in there. I will report that this is all glass as of this afternoon. The entryway is almost done. And this is one of those unexpected conditions right here. This wall was expected to be solid block, and it ended up being brick. And so the structural steel that supports this roof, instead of being anchored onto this, all of this had to be taken down so that new anchorage could be provided on both sides. So that is kind of why this area has drug on so long. It's just unexpected conditions. But what's nice is this is the inside of that space, and it's beautiful. It's huge. It's lit. It's got a lot of volume to it, which compared to what Mercer did look like, is just going to be so spectacular. Gym floor done. This is the connector. The connector inside doesn't look like much now. I think there's a picture beyond this that shows the outside. Now, if you saw the connector before now, this is a huge transformation. It just really looks nice. Brand new set of steps. Concrete steps there were failing. So this is really nice the way it's turned out. Interior hallway. I think this is first floor as it leads down into the media center. And this is the media center, which now is pretty much complete, ready to start getting books and casework and all of that finished up. New elevator at Summit, kind of tucked into a little spot here. Bathroom renovation. Typical classroom. Between now and July, all of it's done. I mean, I was in there this morning. It looks really well. Turbine, right now, about half of this has got the roof on it. It's starting to really take shape. The whole entryway just is a beautiful entry. Some really nice features to it. This is the science room area, art room area. Casework's all in place. This is one of the offices in the hallway, which is really nice because it's got outside light that comes through this glass wall that is the hallway. Front office area. And this space that's not available for start of school, the science area. This is coming on in October. Science casework, all the lockers are in place. Wilson Paving, they finished up the paving today, so paving's 100% done. All these containers that had the teachers' classroom stuff are gone. Casework furniture, everything is in place. AV is in place. And you can see the teacher stuff is in place. This is cafeteria, and what's nice to see is this was prior to the ceiling being done. This is with the ceiling being done. We had the floor coming from Canada, of all places, and it's arrived late. It apparently got hung up in customs, but the flooring will be in place by start of school. Media center. It's the bright, airy school, I'll tell you. A lot of light coming in.
Compared to how it was.
And this is, I guess, the signature cafeteria for Anderson Forest Hills. It just seems like every cafeteria I've been has this like curved wall, really cool, nice entryway. So this is a typical entry to the kitchen, cafeteria. Office area. I think that's it. Is that it? Okay. Any questions?
I just want to comment, I really appreciate you reminding us about the change orders, because seeing those come through, I mean, up front, you told us about the fact that the unforeseen were coming. We didn't know, of course, what they were, but we knew that magnitude was going to occur. But just seeing some of the A&E, that's been a concern. And I realize that some other day we'll get a chance to talk about that. But like I said, putting it all in perspective was very helpful, and I appreciate you taking us through that, because sometimes it's tough to sit here and go through all these. And sometimes, like I said, without the perspective of understanding that the magnitude is well within the range, like I said, very helpful. Thank you.
It was painful putting them into the air.
Yes. It's still painful.
A couple of things, just real quickly to follow up on Dave, then I'll try and fly through these things. He talked about the occupancy. One of the things that we've had with Hamilton County is that until we actually get something in writing from them, they don't want us to change our habits as far as who's accessing what space and so forth. So, we're working with them on that. I got Maddox today. They said as soon as you pay for it, it's yours. We paid for it and got it in 30 seconds. The mountain of dirt behind Anderson, we're not going to create a situation for somebody down the road. We are actually documenting what dirt is going where and what's in that dirt back there. There's a plateau area back there, so we're trying to, if in the event we ever decide to create some more parking down there, we're trying to do this and compact it and grade it and so forth. So if there happens to be any spoils down there, our documents will show what's where down there, so we won't be surprising people. And the wing that Dave showed you, as far as over at Turpin, is actually ahead of schedule. So we may be getting that turned over to us, and the temporary classrooms in there, maybe several weeks early. So things are going along well there. So having said that, I am now to my favorite part of the agenda. I've got item 8.2 is the Lions YMC latchkey contract. Lions Y provides a before-school and after-school program. They've done this for several decades at each of our elementary schools. I have a motion to recommend the approval of the contract for Lions YMCA for the 2017-18 school year and the 18-19 school year. The only change is that in the second year of the contract, we'll be increasing their annual payment by $100 per school. So the superintendent recommends the board approve the contract with Lions YMCA for the next 2 school years as shown in the attachment. 8.3 is a change order for Anderson High School for the site work. What we have here is we have, it's for $59,642. All these change orders, I've provided information to the board ahead of time as to the details of this. The superintendent recommends that the change order submitted by Performance Construction be approved in the amount of $59,642. 8.4 is Anderson High School. This is for the building renovations. I have a change order in the amount of $48,287. Superintendent recommends the board approve the change order submitted by Performance in this amount. 8.5 is Maddox Elementary School. We have a change order there in the amount of $14,906. Superintendent recommends the board approve this change order submitted by Seaforth Building Company in the amount of $14,906. 8.6 is Mercer Elementary School. We have a change order there in the amount of $7,931. Superintendent recommends the board approve this change order submitted by Mark Spalding Construction in the amount of $7,931. 8.7 is Summit Elementary School. We have a change order here in the amount of $20,086. The superintendent recommends the board approve this change order submitted by Mark Spalding Construction in the amount of $20,086. 8.8 is a change order to Evans Landscaping. This is part of the district site package. It's in the amount of $7,498. Superintendent recommends the board approve this change order submitted by Evans Landscaping in the amount of $7,498. 8.9 is an amount of $50,438. This has been, the superintendent recommends the board approve this change order submitted by Monarch Construction Company in the amount of $50,438. I think this is the last change order, construction change order. This is for Wilson Elementary in the amount of $37,000 even. Superintendent recommends the board approve the change order submitted by Century Construction Company in the amount of $37,000. 8.11 is the approval of the transportation bus stops for the 2017-18 school year. The attachment will show all the scheduled bus stops for not only our schools, but all the private and parochial schools we provide transportation services for. Superintendent recommends the board approve the bus stops for the 17-18 school year, as well as the authority to designate or relocate subsequent school bus stops be delegated by the board to the superintendent or designee. 8.12 is amended lease terms. Several months ago, I brought a lease for mod space for the temporary office spaces for transportation. We've had a couple changes in that. One is once the units actually got on site, there's a fairly substantial grade going down towards them, and until we got those on site, we weren't really sure what we were going to have to do with the ramp. We kind of made some guesses. Based upon that slope, we have to actually install a different type of ramp. There's one that goes up part way, makes a turn, and comes back up. So we've had to make a change as far as the lease terms because we rent that as well. So the amount of the lease will increase from $26.88 per month to $28.33 per month. Also, as a result of this, as far as the ramp goes, as well as we're putting a sound barrier inside the space that separate the office from the driver break room, the installation cost has gone up to $48,399, which, of course, that's where my staple is about $1,500 more than what I brought back a couple of months ago. Both these items were included in that one lease, so we're not making any changes to the terms of the lease outside of just these specific amounts. So the superintendent recommends the board approve the amended lease terms with mod space.
Thank you. Moving on to curriculum, 9.1. Natasha? Oh. That's not Natasha.
Good evening. We have item 9.1, supplemental books for AP Language and Composition at Anderson High School. These supplemental books have been on review at the central office in the curriculum department since the July 10th Board of Education meeting. A Walk in the Woods and Hillbilly Elegy. The superintendent recommends the board approve the supplemental books for AP Language and Composition for Anderson High School, grades 11 through 12, as shown.
Any chance?
I got the reviews of them online.
What was that?
She
I
gives-
didn't read them, but I
did the
did
Cliff
do a
Notes.
little
It's all
research.
good.
Interesting.
Glad to hear it. Okay.
Human Resources Report.
Good evening. Item 10.1, HR report. Item A, we see resignations. Item B, appointment of personnel covering E through I. Item C, change of salaries. Item D, change of assignment. On the next page. Also, non-teaching teaching staff and non-teaching staff. Item E, appointments. And I want to just draw your attention to the first section there. Those are all people who have been hired within the last few weeks, and they're what we call hire resign. And so they have actually been hired and resigned their positions at the end of this school year. And we do that just because, we're unsure of what the needs will be next year and so forth. So it's not I don't want anybody to think it's any reflection on these candidates. They're all very good candidates. Classified staff. On to page 3, we continue that. Bus monitors. Item F, special services appointments. This continues 16, 17 that I keep telling you we're done with. But these are all due to extended school year, which provides services for our students with disabilities. Item G, special services appointments for 17, 18. And that goes from page 4 all the way to page 8. Item H, you see our coaches and consultants, and page 8 and 9. Again, I just always want to make sure that, we see all the number of people that work with our students, not just within the classroom and within the day, but also outside. We have I, substitute personnel. Item J, purchasing. 3 items there. And then item K, the organizational chart. And as a reminder to the board, we've not had any change in our FTE since our June meeting. As we transition to the new school year, you will receive a full report in October regarding those changes. The superintendent recommends the board approve the personnel items as listed.
Thank you. Next up, Student Services. Betsy?
Student Services has 3 items for your approval this evening. The first, item 11.1, is our memorandum of understanding between the Hamilton County Educational Service Center and Forest Hills to provide Head Start services to 32 of our children ages 3 to 5 living in Forest Hills. This is a comprehensive child development program funded by the federal government. It is located at Mercer Elementary, and it's to serve our low-income families for our children ages 3 to 5. For that, the only change from the previous 2 years, we've had Head Start in our district. They will be providing food services for this school year, so that is no longer a responsibility of the school district. So that's the only change in that particular MOU. Item 11.2 is an enrollment contract with Linden Grove School to provide intensive and more specialized services for a district student whose placement requires a separate facility, and that is through the IEP process. Item 11.3 is another enrollment contract with Ohio Valley Voices to provide an intensive programming for another district student who's placed there through the IEP. Both of these contracts, actually all 3, have been reviewed by our council. It is recommended that the board approve items 11.1, 11.2, and 11.3.
All right, thank you. And the treasurer's report.
Yeah, and, item A, we have the donations, and I wanted to mention, obviously, a large donation we received is the Forest Hills Foundation for Education, funding our 24/7 program from last year, $11,489.11. So we thank them for their partnership, as always. Item B, we have statement of board accounts. This time of year, we have a lot of pending requests out for federal funds, so that's what covers those negatives, but those are covered by our general fund, so we're okay there. C, D, and E kind of goes to the general fund receipts for the first month of the year. We get a lot of advances, so we have about almost 25% of our projected revenue we do receive in the first month. And obviously, we're spending to get things here for the start of school, so we have about 16% of our expenses happen that first month. Everything is on course with the first year, so no issues there. F, we show our monthly bank reconciliation. G, our investment portfolio. H, minor amendments to the athletic fund. Otherwise, no other amendments. We will be bringing the permanent appropriations in September with a updated 5-year forecast. So we'll put all that together and what we believe will be the map for 17-18 spending and revenue next month. We have the board service fund expense request for approval, closing a student activity fund, and having the board approve the list of building cashiers and different cashiers to handle district funds for the 17-18 school year. Recommended the board approve this report, as well as consider approval for items 8.2 through 12.1 as presented.
I move that we approve items 8.2 through 12.1 exclusive of items 8.3 and 8.4.
Second.
Mr. Depfer?
Hold on, can we discuss briefly?
Yeah.
And maybe you had some of this discussion before I got here, but I know it's come up in the past, and I know there's been some talk out there on some social media page that's come to my attention. We've said it before, we approve work here, but we do the work before we get to the board meetings, and particularly on things with like these change orders that Mr. Johnson goes over. There is a considerable amount of information that is provided to the board before we review, before we vote on these items. He does a lot of legwork, and the numbers that he presents in his meetings here on a monthly basis are aggregate numbers for each of the change orders what we're proving as he presents them. And there's a lot of detail of those, and we get all that detail in the agenda that's sent to us on Thursday or Friday, and we look at it all. And we also get, for instance, a change order tracking, and we know how the change orders are tracking to what we budgeted, because of course you anticipate certain things are going to go wrong. That's the one thing you can count on about construction, is it's going to be unexpected. And so there's contingencies, and in fact on Anderson, Turpin, and Maddox, if I'm reading this correctly, we're actually below our contingencies on the change orders, and that's because of the planning that goes into this stuff beforehand. And even then, we don't automatically approve these things. We ask a lot of questions, and Mr. Johnson and Mr. Prebbles and Mr. Tepfer know they can count on me every week for an email on each and every agenda item for which I have a question, and they respond. And all that's done before we come here and we vote. And so when we make these motions and we approve these motions, it's not because we don't think about it. We do. All the work takes place before we come here. And we all do it, and we all do it independent of each other because we have to, because we can't communicate until we come here. So when we vote on this and it all looks like maybe we're all just nodding our heads, we are tonight, but we didn't last night, and we didn't on Saturday, and we didn't on Friday. And if you said that before I got here, I apologize.
That was a good summary.
It's a good point to make.
Mr. Fruman?
Yes.
Mrs. Hubner?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Dr. Heiss?
Yes. Can I get a motion on the other two agenda items?
Sure. I move items 8.3 and 8.4.
Second.
Mr.
Tupfer?
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Mrs. Hubner?
Yes.
Mr. Fruman?
Abstain.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Dr. Heiss?
Yes. Now we're on to reports to the Board of Education. Business Advisory Committee report.
No meeting last month. Our next meeting, we start up the year on the second Thursday of every other month, so 9/14 at 7 p.m.
Policy Committee report.
Tonight is the second reading of policy on gifted education and identification. Randy and I brought this to you last meeting, and we explained it then, and tonight we are voting on it.
We need to vote now?
Yes.
Okay.
I move that we approve, that would be a good idea.
I understand.
I move that we approve the revised policy as shown in the attachment for gifted education and identification.
Second.
Mr. Tupfer?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Fruman?
Yes.
Mrs. Hubner? Dr. Heiss?
Yes. Where is the Business Advisory Committee is in the administration building? Is that correct? Okay, the basement. Next up, Human Resources Committee report.
Yes, we had a Human Resource Committee meeting on August 16th, 2017 at 7 a.m. Julie and I were there on behalf of the board. Of course, Ms. Carnahan, Mr. Broadweather, Mr. Prebles, and also joining us were our board members-elect, Elizabeth Barber and Dee Dee Choice. And we can do that because they're not yet board members. But we got an excellent presentation in considerable detail, and for actually us, the information wasn't new. It was somewhat similar to what we reported the last time. It was updated a little bit. We went through the 5-year staffing projections and the elementary school staffing and the FTE worksheet, and Ms. Carnahan, as she always did an excellent job updating the committee, which included primarily Julie and I, but it was also, I think, really beneficial for Ms. Choice and Ms. Barber to see where we've been and how we got there.
Thank you. Next up, Finance Committee report.
We did meet August 3rd and reviewed a number of things, primarily the 5-year forecast, including a advanced look at what the proposed 5-year forecast is going to be look like. The one thing I want to point out is we are consistent. We're still on track. Board policy requires that we start to take some action when we see that, is it 2 years out, we will start to be negative. The operating levy that we passed in 2012, which was projected to last 3 years, as I think by now everybody in this room is very aware, it looks like we're going to be able to stretch it to 6 years. So from 2012, the next time we'll need to start collecting revenue is 2020, which means we will probably have not probably, I'm certain, we will have a operating levy on sometime in 2019, probably May of 2019. So I just want to make sure we're clear on that. We've been consistent. People know that's coming. Something that Superintendent Prebles pointed out this morning at the convocation, it's all very important for people to remember that if you look at the Treasurer's report, there's capital money sitting there, but it's not legal to spend capital money, which we got in the bond issue, on operating expenses. So we do have to go out in, like I said, probably May of 2019 for an operating levy. By the way, what's that?
One thing to add to that is that the 5-year forecast also includes the operating dollars of the things that we're doing with the bond issue. So full-day kindergarten, that program is in the 5-year forecast when it comes to staffing. The electricity needs when air conditioning 4 new buildings. So those have all been built in. So when we go out for an operating levy, it is truly in addition to that. So there has been planning on the operating needs that are a direct result of the bond issue.
Now, the other thing I wanted to mention, I think we probably mentioned the Moody's bond rating report, and I understand that our rating is still a AA1, which apparently is the highest rating any school district in the state of Ohio that we're aware of has, and that, to me, that's just another indication, a sign of the good work
the fiscal responsibility of our treasurer, the whole school district, and everybody involved. That's a very valuable rating because it saves us a lot of money. That's all I have for the Finance Committee.
Thank you. Curriculum and Student Services Committee report.
I guess I will speak since it says Tony Hummelgarn. I'm the chair of this committee, and we are going to meet with Natasha Adams and her team in September and then get a sneak peek at the report card. But we're kind of letting them get started with the school year, and we'll meet before our next regular board meeting at the end of September.
Great, thank you. Safety Committee report.
With the advent of the start of school, I anticipate a safety committee meeting is imminent this fall. Mr. Eckert's saying yes, so stay tuned.
Forest Hills Foundation.
Forest Hills Foundation. Forest Hills Foundation Board met on August 9th, 2017, and I will give you some of the highlights. The fiscal year is from July 1st through June 30th, and as of June 30th, $150,000 was raised this past year. The goal was $180,000. It's still a huge success. I personally think the goal was very, what's the word? Help me. Thank you. Well, yeah, a lofty, aggressive, thank you, all those things. So the board believes it was a huge success. You should know that 10% of the net fundraising goes to an endowment account on a yearly basis. And of note in the fundraising during the year, Forest Hills 5K raised over $43,000, and the soiree was a little bit less than $41,000. So those are both big successes as well. The president of the foundation reported that at the executive committee level, some of the work plan for the next year will involve innovation, mental health, workforce and career readiness. There is a brochure, a new brochure being created. I believe, isn't Mr. or Mrs. Mackey, aren't they helping with that?
Yes.
Yes. Yep. They're awesome, continue to be awesome. And we're also talking about succession planning this next year. The soiree will be on Saturday, October 4th from 7 to 11. 14th, I'm sorry. My bad. I always do that with the slash. It's October 14th, not October 4th, from 7 to 11 at Wellington Orthopedics. Online registration is open. Register often and early. Invitations are to be mailed on August 31st. And please know that if you sign up before August 31st, you get a little bit lesser amount. And after August 31st, it goes up by $50 a couple. Thank you. What else can I tell you? I'm sorry, I'm going on a little long. It's just that it's a really cool group, and I want to give you everything I can. Distinguished Alumni Awards Luncheon will be on March the 9th, 2018. Community outreach is beginning to work with schools and interparish ministries to organize the all-in donation drive for the week of October 9th. It's a community donation drive, and historically, if I wrote this down right, I think I did, historically we're at about 13,000 items over the last 2 years. That's awesome. I thought that might be a mistake, but I did write that down right. Program initiative, the Destination Imagination Team Manager meeting is planned for September. There's a PSAT practice test on Sunday, October 1st, 12:30 to 3:30. Teacher grants, final submissions are over. The awards will be by September the 5th, and the website has a step-by-step process on how to do teacher grants, and I think that will be on there for next year as well. I'm almost done. Communication, we added a Forest Hills Foundation grant writing tutorial created by a board member, Jessica Horton, to the website, which is a welcome addition. And an information sheet on the foundation was created to include in the back-to-school packets. This organization is awesome, and as I leave the board, sadly, but eagerly to begin sort of a new future as well, I hope to stay with that group because it's just crazy how much work, how many things they're doing, and I'm proud to serve as the current board member on that board, and hopefully I can serve on it as a retired board member in the future. So.
We have a place for you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, legislative liaison report.
Fortunately, the legislature is out of session, which means they can't pass any more mandates or change anything. I did attend a budget debrief meeting in Columbus where they went over, now that the dust has settled and all the vetoes are in, the three things that I took away from that, well, one is they went through 63 pages of changes that'll impact K through 12 education, and not one of them was there funding provided to help us implement any of those mandates, changes, and whatever that comes along with that. The second thing is they had a number of speakers who were giving really detailed background on the state budget and the impact, the coming impact on K through 12 education. The key takeaway is that sales tax revenue is declining. And that is not a good sign because education, I think we're the #2 largest expense in the state budget. And bottom line is, okay, this year and next year, we're flat funded. That was fortunate for Forest Hills. Like as I've said before, I rarely want to celebrate getting no more money, but in this case, that was a good thing. For out years, it's looking even dimmer. I would be surprised if even Forest Hills escapes some kind of a budget cut, funding cut. I'm trying to watch for Mr. Tepfer's reaction to this, but I would be very surprised if we get any increases. It's more likely we're going to wind up getting cut like at least a third of the school districts in the state of Ohio did this year. So that's just something to be thinking about. As we start planning for a operating levy, it's too early to tell how much the operating levy will be for, but we know when we're going to need it. Let's see, the other thing I wanted to mention was we will have Pat Bruns at our September Board of Education meeting. Pat is the elected state Board of Education member to represent our district. They're elected and appointed. She's our elected member. And in either October or November, Senator Steve Wilson will be here. Steve Wilson is our new senator. He was appointed to take the place of Senator Shannon Jones when she took over as a trustee in Warren County. So that's coming up in the future.
All right, thank you. Okay, before we go to executive session, our next regular meeting of the Board of Education is on September 25th here, correct? We'll be back here. We do not anticipate any actionable items after our executive session. Thank you all for coming.
So, pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 12122G1, I hereby move that the board adjourn to executive session for the purpose of considering the employment of a public employee or official.
Second.
Mr. Tepper?
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Fruman?
Yes.
Mrs. Studer?
Yes.
Dr. Heiss?
Yes. Ken, thanks for coming, and have a great next couple weeks.